Hey, I want to tell everybody we are talking to John Gallagher, the bassist and lead singer from the band Raven, and he's in Newcastle upon Tyne, England. And welcome.
Good to be with you, Matt. How's it going?
Good. I got things.
Gotta like the splashy colours in the background. Very cool.
It's like Technicolor vomit.
That's right. It's we're getting all psychedelic right now.
Takes the focus off of me. So what I wanted to ask you about was, when you came to New York, was it because of Johnny Z? And you guys were pretty young at the time, right?
Yeah, I mean, we came over and played the Headbangers, what was it called? The Halloween Headbangers Ball on Halloween in 1982. And then we did like 4 or 5 shows right after, coupled by ourselves, the rest with Anvil. And it was great. It was, an eye-opener for sure. And Johnny Z had put that together and he just said, well, next year, let's bring you guys over. Let's do a headlining tour, which turned out to be the Kill 'Em All for One tour. We got that young band of retrogrades, the Metallica boys, to come out and open for us on it. But Johnny Z is the reason we came over. And it was, you make hay where the sun shines, and the sun wasn't shining in England at that point.
Does it ever shine?
Oh, rarely, occasionally. But it was financially, it was definitely raining a lot. There was nothing happening. And, all we do is like 2 or 3 times a week go down to where Neat Records was and go, when are we going to get some gigs? When are we going to do this? And nothing was forthcoming. And then you get Johnny Z, I want to do this. It's like, boom. And that's why, like in 84, we just upped and moved pretty much lock, stock and barrel over to the States.
That takes a lot of guts to do. I could never do that. So I've been locked in Oregon forever.
We burned a lot of bridges. Personally, all 3 of us, me and my brother were married. Rob had a long-term relationship and all that totally went down the toilet. In my case, it was understood. It was just like, I get it. She said, go forth and have fun, go do what you're supposed to do, which was very cool of her. But, we definitely, put our foot out into, off the cliff and just hoped there'd be an updraft and just did what we had to do,
Jumping. Hope you don't get
out over the years. Sometimes, you've got to make those calculated risks. Otherwise, you won't go forward. That's the difference,
Was that the tour with Anthrax that we played on?
In 84, yeah. We came over with the intention of touring until we got a major deal, and we got a major agency deal. And it took until the end of the year, but we did get them. And sometimes, be careful of what you wish for. Because we ended up with Atlantic, who were, quite honestly, pretty horrible. And we ended up with an excellent agent. However, there was a lot of politics going on. There was an agent called, I believe it was ITM, and they had all the metal and rock bands. We signed with the best agent. We signed with Premier Talent, who had The Who and Journey and Judas Priest. And that's the only band we ended up touring with was Judas Priest, because the other agent was so pissed off that we didn't sign with him, he wouldn't let us open for any of the bands. So eventually we had to say, hey, this ain't working out. We're going to have to go cap in hand to these other guys, which we did in 87. And that's when we ended up touring with Wasp and Slayer.
I jammed with Glenn Tipton and Paul Chapman when UFO and Judas Priest were touring together. It was at Mick Zane. Did you ever know Malice? It was at his,
I met Jay Reynolds a few times, yeah.
Man, he lived in this basement when he was putting it together. Me and Dean when we met Dean the same night, we went down to see him and became friends with him, and we did the demos that got him onto Metal Blade.
Cool. Very cool.
He, for my first record, The Ravers, which was kind of new wave that came out in 1980, at the release party, we were the only rock band on the label. The guy that was the head of the label had started Arista Records with Clive Davis and had all these jazz guys on the label, and it was a release party for all the album, all the acts. And Jay brought James Neal, the singer, and Mick, the guitar player. And James goes, there's all these guys in suits, and Kenny G was there, and all these jazz guys with Tower and Power horns. And James gets really crazy on one beer. And I'll get to his story with Slayer. So he drank one beer, and we're in the kitchen, and there's a door to the backyard. And he went outside, didn't see him for like 20 minutes. And he came back in, totally stark, butt naked, and covered in shit.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah, I said, in my best Keith Moon, I said, oh, dear boy, what is that fragrance? It's so natural. You must tell me. It looks like it will do wonders for your skin. And he goes, I took a shit and rolled in it.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
And I kept my Keith Moon up because I thought that's very artistic.
Arista were a horrible label for a rock band. I know the Rods were on them and they treated them awful. Unfortunately, most of the labels didn't know what to do with heavy metal. It's selling. Let's sign a band.
This was before Wild Dogs and Shrapnel. The guy that did that ended up being the vice president of the entire Universal Music division.
Wow.
And this is 2 years before I was on Barney's label. So anyway, James gets another beer, drinks it, and it's February. It had snowed. And everybody looked at him, and he ran out the door and headed towards the freeway, I-5.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so Mick didn't want to play with him. That's why Jay and I, 2 years later, made demos with Dean and the guitar player named Kip Doran, who was in my Evil Genius band. Slayer used to do that to them when they toured with them in Europe, and he did it in Sheepfield, too.
Oh, jeez.
They told him, you're in a poser band, and gave him beers and got him drunk, and he took all his clothes off, gave him to the road manager, and left. They found him outside the station wagon. This is in winter. He must like cold weather, covered in sheep shit.
And this guy seems more like a dog.
Yeah, except he doesn't eat it.
Yeah.
Crazy. But
that's mental. But yeah, that was obviously very strange. We got signed by the disco guy at Atlantic because the rock guy was in rehab. And it was every time we went there, it was like an outtake from Spinal Tap. Like where they have the record company party. All the women were just like Bobby Fluffkin
Bobby Fleckman.
Yeah, exactly. Just like that. And they hadn't a clue. They didn't care. It was all like they could have been selling baked beans or freaking sanitary towels for all we knew. And it took a while for that to sink in. And eventually it was a case of like, do we stay with this? Where it's just, zero promotion or promotion after the fact when we don't need it. We just said, please let's negotiate our way out of this contract, which we finally did in 1988, I guess.
Yeah, Johnny Z approached us for our second Wild Dogs album, and Mike Varney he was pretty good with us, and I just stayed with them. And he never. The thing with him and Brian Slagle, especially Mike, they didn't put you on tour, so you didn't go in debt for tour support. So I didn't make much money, but I didn't owe any either.
Yeah, that was the thing back then, wasn't it? The labels would give you tour support, which, that all did, you think, oh, it's all wonderful. And, oh, we've got this tour bus. Oh, and we've got this. And you realize, hang on a minute, who's paying for all this? We are.
Yeah, and with a 60% interest charge, that's what Andy McKay told me.
Everyone's, whatever their charges are, gets kicked up. I remember really noticing how that all worked. It was with Slayer, the guitar tech, was he didn't get paid. So he's calling up the accountant and he's like, where's my $300? He goes, $300? I've got you down here for 500. So the tour manager and the accountant were in cahoots and they'd elevated the rates of what all the crew were getting and they were skimming it off the top.
Yeah, that's common.
Who was paying for it? The band was paying for it. Nasty, man. Nasty people. That would happen all down the line. If you had to have an accountant because of the monies being involved, they were taking, more than their fair share. And the lawyers, if you had lawyers involved, they would charge more than they normally would. And it's just horrible.
Yeah, I interviewed quite a few bands in the 90s and put them on my TV show, and they got guys who were on VH1 and had hit songs, and they were broke and $2 million in debt.
That's when you find out all those bands broke up because it wasn't feasible. They had to, you had to pay those debts off in order to continue. It's like, well, that's not happening.
But now the record label takes. Andy told me that we keep them in debt, and nowadays, since records don't sell, we take money from the ticket sales when they tour.
Yep, and the merch, a 360 deal. They take it from everything. Luckily, we don't have that kind of arrangement. From 88 onward, we were just licensing to the record labels.
That's the way to do it.
Licensing deal, not a full deal with that. And the amount of monies even back then coming in, and this is pre-internet, was substantially less, but we would make substantially more out of it.
Yeah.
Where before you were getting, it got to the point with the last Atlantic album, we were putting on, there's a saxophone player at the session here, and there's a flugelhorn player, and, charging to the record company, and they'd send the money over to pay these non-existent guys so we could get some money. That was the only way you could do it. But, the amount of advances went way down, but the amount that we would make out of it was way up. So, it worked out far better for us in the long run, as opposed to turning around going, we're paying a lighting guy $500 a week, and the sound guy $600 a week, and guitar roadies $400 a week, and we're getting what, $20 a gig per diem? No. But that's just us. That was going on from the 60s, and it permeated all the way through to now, I think,
Yeah. But, in 1975, I read a book called What You Want Is in the Limo. It was with Shep Gordon, a guy who mentored me, and The Who. And it was about how much money, that's when the record companies were really thick with it. He said,
well, Shep managed Alice Cooper famously, right? Very knowledgeable guy.
Our manager was working for Alice. He taught him how to golf. And he said, hey, he's from Chicago. He said, Matt, here's this number. Call this guy, it's Shep Gordon. You guys would get on like a house on fire. And so I would call him up and talk to him for hours. And he just gave me the best education for free. He's a really nice guy.
I've heard that. I think there's a documentary out about him, actually.
Supermensch.
There you go. Supermensch.
Mike Myers made it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Shep started the cooking channel. And he
really?
I managed a bunch of chefs because they weren't getting paid and they couldn't eat with the guests. They'd have them make these dinners for people. And he said that was, unfair. And so he's the guy who pretty much created Emerald Lagasse's career, by selling stuff. And Did it with
And all of a sudden, these guys are superstars. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
Very cool.
But yeah, I remember the Bunko took the Live at the Inferno in gatefold picture, didn't he? Of live.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, I believe it is the one on the inside. There's a guy called Bob Leaf did the one on the outside, and famously, there was a thing. It's on the internet somewhere where he was negotiating with Johnny Z. He says, one of my photographs goes on the cover of an album. It's $1,000, and Johnny Z says $300. And he's kind of like, no. He says, I'm not taking that. He says, well, I'm not paying a penny more than $300. And he says, well, then I'm not doing it. So Johnny Z sent him a check for $300.01 and used the photo. What's really cool, if you dig on the internet, that guy has a bunch of photos, and he has the photograph of like maybe a second or two before that photograph was taken. And it's amazing because Mark had thrown his guitar and the photo catches the guitar in midair.
Ah, cool.
It's fantastic.
Yeah, I remember, I think you caught the curtains on fire in Seattle.
That was a great one because we had our road manager and the lighting guy. I think they'd been probably smoking too much pot. They were loading these mortars and they were putting all kinds of crazy stuff in it, like dirt and this, that, and the other. And when it went off, it created a Jacobson's arch like you would see in a Frankenstein movie.
Uh-huh.
And it went up the curtain. And it was the most amazing thing ever. I mean, I didn't see it. I was facing the wrong way. But our sound guy was freaking out because that's the greatest effect I've ever seen. And it set the curtains on fire. And also at that one, we used to have Rob's helmet would explode at the end of his drum solo. And they'd have a concussion bomb timed with it that was surrounded by road cases to make it safe and keep it out of the way. And when it went off, it went boom, ba-bam, 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 because all the cases went down the stairs.
Oh, that was great theater.
Oh, yeah.
You had a good, I remember the set, you had ramps and stairs. I thought, wow, this is really cool.
Yeah, it was, and a lot of the other stuff we'd got, well, that was our stuff, the ramps and the riser. And then the next time around, we bought a bunch of stuff off Judas Priest. Basically, all the stuff you see in that 1982, what was it, San Antonio, or where is it, Dallas or whatever, I don't know. The pentagram with the lights on it and all the staging, we just reconfigured it. But it was, that's the rabbit hole from hell. Once you do that, it's like, what do you do next year? You got to do bigger and better and bigger. It's nah. You can do that. You're going platinum. That's about it.
Until you have to get Stonehenge made tiny.
you have the small Stonehenge. Yeah.
There's a new Spinal Tap coming out, I hear.
I've heard they're working on that, which is excellent. Yeah, the original's classic. And then they did a shorter, like an hour-long thing for MTV where they played, I think, the Royal Albert Hall, and they had this Stonehenge and it was too big, it wouldn't go through the door. They had it the wrong way around. It was very silly.
Yeah, that's...
Yeah, I mean, that whole thing, everyone was doing that, trying to get bigger and better. And we just turned around and said, you know what? We don't need it. You know, for a lot of bands, it's just like, well, you know, we're not exciting. We've got no personality. Let's have, you know, just throw money at it. We've got lots of lights and staging and, you know, characters on stilts and all this other stuff. It's just like, we don't need that.
Yeah. In for a penny, in for a pound, might as well be in debt for that too.
Yeah, we played that game and then it was just like, nah.
Just play loud.
Yeah, just make it louder. More amps.
Everything louder than everyone else.
Exactly.
It worked for Lemmy. I loved Lemmy. I shot the band twice. And
he was a character. We played with him, geez, 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 or 6 times over the years. And he was always a lot of fun until 97 when we played a festival with them. And he'd just been about 6 months before in Romania, and somebody had thrown a coin that was sharpened and it hit his arm, and he got blood poisoning, and he was really sick for a while. So at that gig, he had his monitor set like 15 foot away from the front of the stage. He was, scared. He was keeping away from people. And that would translate it off stage too. He would just sit in a trailer playing his one-on band and never talk to nobody. Very, very sad.
I read about that in his book. Are you going to put out a book?
Well, I did a thing for a Japanese promoter who wanted some war stories, and I ended up doing like what amounted to 6 or 7 chapters. And it was just like, beforehand, you'd think, it's monumental. How do you do this? But yeah, I definitely could do it.
Yeah.
I just got to put my mind to it, because there's endless stories. And at this point, we've got that horrible behind the music arc with the starts, get big, go down, come back up again nonsense, You have to have a start, a middle, and an end.
And a twinkly piano in it somewhere.
What's that?
And a twinkly piano for when the guy goes off on drugs and then goes to rehab.
Oh, yeah. Well, we don't have that, thank God. But we do have the disasters, like my brother's accident back in 2001, which was definitely a low point, because he could have died quite easily.
Car accident?
No, he was chasing a guy for money on a building site. And when he went there, it was a long story. He had an accident the day before and had a big lump on his head from somebody T-boning him in the car. So he goes there and he couldn't put the hard hat on because of the lump. So he just had his baseball cap on, and the wind blew it off. And he went to get it, and the wind blew it again. And he went to get it, and then the entire building fell down on top of him. And it landed on his legs. And if he hadn't had the lump on his head, and it would have landed right on top of him and killed him completely.
What year was that?
That was in 2001.
Wow.
So he had both calves ripped off, both feet dislocated. He had a piece of rebar through one leg. It's just dreadful.
Oh, wow. So he was working construction?
No, he was picking up money from a friend of his who owed him money, and he was pissed off and going to chase them down. So not fun. And he called me laughing. I'm like, what's the matter? He says, I've got a building on top of me. I'm like, what? Oh, he was, with the adrenaline and the shock, he was just talking nonsense. I went, oh, yeah, right, Bob. And then, of course, half an hour later, I hear from his wife that, yes, it did happen, and he's been medevaced to the hospital.
But he's got a great sense of humor anyway. So
well, you have to. It's where we come from, It's a case of it's our natural defense against adversity. We always make fun of it, and you got to laugh at it and say, could always be worse.
That's my line. Hey, it was, we were without power here in Portland for 6 days. The lady 2 houses up died because she froze to death.
Oh, my God. When was this?
Just 2 weeks ago. Now today it's 68 degrees.
Oh, jeez.
And, my mom's 86, and I'm here. So she said, I'm so glad you're here, because she doesn't do well in crisis. I just kept exercising and playing drums and charging my battery on a power bank. But it was cold as hell. So many trees fell down. And,
man. Nasty.
Yeah. It was the southeast side across the river didn't hardly feel it.
Because my daughter lives out that way, but she never mentioned anything about it, and must have been another part of the city,
Oh, it's 15 degrees. Those 2 nights were really cold. no heat, no electricity.
Jesus Christ.
But yeah, sense of humor has got me through everything in my life, and maybe I'm from where you are.
You're an honorary Geordie. There you go.
Yeah, except you can understand me. When you guys said you won't be able to understand us and you talked in your accent, I couldn't. Who else is from where you're from?
Oh, man, everyone's from where we are, man. You know, like, yeah, let me tell you. You start off with, you've got the Animals, Eric Burden.
Have you read Tappy Wright's book?
What's that?
Have you read Tappy Wright's book? It's called.
I've heard about it, but I've never read it.
Oh, it's great. And he talks about how Jimi Hendrix was murdered by his manager.
Yeah, and Mike Jeffries and all that. Brian Johnson is from Newcastle. Mark Knopfler is from Newcastle. Sting is from just up the road. The director. Who's the director that did Aliens? Titanic. Well, not Titanic. The Aliens and shit like that. Ridley Scott.
Yeah.
He's from South Shields, just across the river. But there's an awful lot, even pop bands. The Pet Shop Boys, those guys were from Newcastle.
Isn't Kim from Savoy Brown also from there?
Kim is from Wales.
Oh.
Or he was from Wales. Look, your boy, he would talk like this when he wanted to. But he normally talked cut glass, posh English. He tried to. Yeah, we knew Kim very well. Our old drummer Joe played with Kim for about 3 or 4 years before he joined us. So
I saw Savoy Brown and Status Quo together in like 1972 on the Pile Driver tour.
Oh, fantastic! And Status Quo, incredible.
They wallpapered the Paramount Theater with full-size Pile Driver posters, and I got one. I said, "Wow!" And some guy said, "Hey, people are supposed to take these." So I took 2. They were great. It was on my wall forever.
They're probably worth a fortune.
Such a great shot.
That was one of the first bands we saw, and they were amazing. They're just amazing. Heads down, dun, 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 all the way through. Killer.
So you're going to go on tour in about a month, right?
Well, actually going on tour in 2 weeks over here. We've got a little run in the United Kingdom with Girlsschool and Alcatrazz. We're just going to take turns headlining. We'll do 2, and each of the band will be on last 2. We'll just figure it all out. But we're doing Glasgow, we're doing Newcastle, we're doing Manchester, we're doing London, we'll do Southampton and Birmingham.
We played with Girlsschool in San Francisco, and all the guys that, like Brian Liu and the guy that was a Metallica fan club guys,
KJ, right?
Yeah, who were fans of ours. When we played with them, they didn't want to see us at all. They're like, "Get off!"
Yeah,
but
crazy.
Yeah. I partied with them before that when they played here in Portland. Nice girl. Liked them. They're nice people.
Yeah, but they were terrible drinkers back then. Oh my God, they drink most guys under the table. They were like ridiculous.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. We did 27 dates with them in England. 27 date tours. People don't do that over here anymore, unfortunately. That was back in 82, and that was fantastic. But we've toured with them. Geez, this will be like the 4th time now. So we know them well.
I'm trying to get Brian Allen from Vicious Rumors, and he doesn't even know about the tour that you guys are doing. But Brian's a little bit dingy anyway. In fact, he keeps making excuses why he won't come on here and talk to me. So I thought, I'll call him up and listen to his excuses with a camera on.
Oh, there you go. You should name him and shame him. The whole deal.
Yeah, I did have Kurt James.
Tour. That's the next tour is the United States, and we start on March 22nd in Cape Coral, Florida, and work our way up, going west through Louisiana and Texas and Arizona, California, Oregon, Vancouver, and then back down through the Midwest or through to the East Coast. That's going to go right through to the first week of May.
Cool.
And then right after that, we're going to Japan. So keep busy.
I've been listening to your album when I work out. It makes me pedal the bike faster. Great. I mean, I don't really listen. It's the only new metal album I bought besides Metal City in years.
That's cool. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's that thing. I keep getting these messages on Twitter or X, as they call it now. And it's all this stuff from Kerrang or Metal Hammer. And I'm looking at these bands going, these are not metal bands. These bands are horrible. Bands are god-awful. It's just, metal means more than just noise.
Yeah. You've
got to have melody. You've got to have song construction. Yeah, energy, aggression, craziness, absolutely. But it's got to be tempered with those other things. And just having, just nothing for me whatsoever.
With singing that's, angry guys who live in the suburbs.
Yeah, it's just like, stop the car. Hey, do you want to sing on this record? Let me stamp on your foot and you can just like scream in pain. Thank you, that'll do. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I don't like that too well.
No.
And
people go, no, there's an art to it. Well, that may be true, but it still sounds fucking awful. So,
and Lemmy would say you can't fuck to it. It's so good.
It's not a case of it's got a good beat and I can dance to it.
Yeah.
It's like rap music. Rap music doesn't have any melody to it.
The early stuff had a lot of great samples from like Funkadelic, but after that it just became
it's just some guy noodling on a drum machine and a synthesizer doing background for some guy to read the dictionary as fast as possible,
Like all the bands that are on Saturday Night Live.
Oh, it's dreadful.
Yeah.
Dreadful. Very few of them are of any worth.
Yeah, I'm looking at my girlfriend going, have you ever heard of these people? Oh, yeah, they're big. I go,
oh, yeah, they're huge. I don't know how they're huge. It's they're number one on Spotify. And that guy, Rick Beato, does this thing on YouTube. And you go, here's the top 10. And you go through it. And it's just like one after the other. It's just utterly awful. And then he did the country top 10. And uniformly, they were excellent. Every song. The playing, the singing, the song construction was excellent. And I don't like country. But
they are great.
It was classy. It was so much better.
And they can play.
Oh, absolutely. And when you tell these guys, play now, they'll on a dime, and they'll do it. They'll pull it off.
This girl.
I need to, edit it for 6 months to make it sound good, or all that nonsense, I need my click track in my headphones and all that shit.
This girl that I went to school with, she kind of a crappy songwriter, singer, guitar player. Somebody said, come to Nashville, pay us $5,000, we'll produce your 5 songs. And wow.
Oh, yeah.
It was amazing. They had it done.
You're dealing, those guys there, you're literally dealing with the best of the best. And these... they sit and they have like 5 or 6 guys working on a song, and they know just how to tweak them the right way. That can be a little soulless as well, obviously. It's production line writing, But, hey, I'm just happy we can still pull tunes out of our ass and go, hey, this excites me. I've never heard this before. Let's do this. And but still with its feet on the ground in what we are, and just pushing that envelope every time.
I think this album, All Hell's Breaking Loose, is the best one I've heard in a long, long time.
We had so much fun doing it, and it was great because it was just the 3 of us. Mike engineered it, and he we went through the whole writing, and he did his drums, and then we went to a studio and we did everything else. And it was like maybe 3 weeks of like 16-hour days, just boom, 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 going through it, putting the stuff down.
I interviewed Dean and said, talked about Mike Heller being a drummer, and he said, "Oh, that guy's amazing." Dean Castronovo.
High praise. Dean's a fantastic drummer.
That interview is so funny because he did it on his phone and was walking around, and you can really see how hyperactive this guy is. And that's, without drugs. I called him Dean Castronovo.
Caffeine Castronovo.
He would sleep in my house when I first met him, and I woke up about 6 in the morning and saw his feet going like this. So I thought he's up. And I said, "Hey, Dean." And he woke up. "What?" I go, "Oh, are you still asleep?" "Yeah." I go, "Well, your feet are playing double bass in your sleep."
In your sleep.
I'm hyperactive, man.
Crazy.
Yeah. But it's nighttime. What are you doing tonight?
Night? Jeez, I'm not doing much of anything. Just watching some TV. I've been working on guitars all day. I've got problems with a couple of basses and one of his guitars. I've just been stripping them down and trying to get it right.
Do you have gear there or someplace in here?
I have some gear here. I have like 3 or 4 guitars.
Or do you bring it all with you when you tour?
I bring, I left a few things here when we, went to the States for Christmas. Things like this I bought over here.
That's the old Fable.
Famous Arab.
That's a V, right? No, that's the Explorer. Oh, that's a new one?
Well, it's from the 80s. It was up on eBay for next to nothing. And they wouldn't ship it when I bought it. I said, "Where do you live?" They said, "Melton Mowbray." That's like 200 miles away. I says, "I'll get the train." So I took the train. I met this couple, and they were lovely. They took me in, had a cup of tea, brought the bass out, and she used to play in a punk band. And when they were in there, the guy who ran the rehearsal studio said, "Look, in the next room, this band came in for a week, rehearsed, and left all their stuff. Do you want this bass guitar?" So, "Yeah, I'll take it." So she took it and put it in the closet for 30 years.
Wow.
So I'm like, "Yeah, I'll just clean that up. That'll be fantastic." So boom. So that'll join the arsenal. So we, I wheel deal. I pick stuff up. If I like it, I keep it. If I don't, I sell it, or, keep it going. But I think I'll hold on to that one. It's a nice one.
No, I just
like hen's teeth these days. You can't get them,
I just wondered, it's pretty expensive to fly your gear over to Europe. Some bands will have their
over here. I mean, actual backline.
Mm-hmm.
We just rent. It's we'll rent it for the tour, or if it's festivals, obviously it's already provided. So I just bring a couple of basses and me effects and me wireless microphone stuff and all that crap.
Speaking of festivals, Steffi from Headbangers Open Air told me to tell you, tell them hi. Those guys are great. She's a woman with really long blonde hair.
She's a sweetheart. She's Bambi Galore, the club in Hamburg that we've done. I just sent her an album, actually. Yeah, she's very cool.
She was really keen on Neil Turbin for a while until he was until he showed his real self, I guess.
Until she met him. Oh dear.
No comment.
No.
Now, Kurt James used to play, the guitar player for Dr. Mastermind, played with me, with his band Death Riders for a while.
Right.
And they played Anthrax music, and he took Yngwie's place in Steeler. So he played a lot like Yngwie. And he also played in Alcatrazz. So I thought, how did that work? Because he's not the kind of guitar players that Anthrax have. He was just too tall for Anthrax.
Well, I remember that on that tour. Neil was literally head, shoulders, and waist above poor little Danny Slits, you know.
Yeah.
And when he was playing his solos, he would lean on them, and he had all that chain mail on that weighed like about 600 pounds, and you'd see Danny just crushing and going smaller.
Yeah. Not going to get through today's metal detector for that.
No, yeah. I think Mark actually picked up some photos from it might have been Johnny Z's, and there was just some horrible photos. You know, when you remember the Scorpions pyramid where they used to do that thing at the end of the set?
Yeah.
Well, Anthrax actually did that for a photo session, and they all look like they're going to fall over and break their asses or something. And,
hey, speaking of Scorpions, Mickey D got a pretty good gig with them.
well, he's a perfect fit.
Yeah, he's a nice guy.
Drives the bus, you know, nice guy, great drummer, great feel, pushes the beat. Yeah, he's good.
I asked him at the second Motorhead show, I videotaped. I said, "Can I come up and shoe you by next to you?" And he goes, "You're taking your life in your hands." I go, "Remember, I played with Dean." "Oh, no problem." I'm already deaf, so I went up and shot him right next to his drums. It's pretty cool. He goes, "Just stay away from this cymbal because you probably get hit." His drum tech, his dad, the drum tech, Vito DeVito, his family owns Danmar Percussion, and his dad played with Herb Alpert.
Oh, wow.
Which was my first concert, was Herb Alpert with Buddy Hackett opening, the comedian.
That's crazy.
I was 7.
Oh, my God.
And my stepdad took us because we were supposed to go see the Beatles in '66, but somehow it didn't happen. Were you a Beatles fan?
Oh, of course. I remember as little kids, me and Mark, beating on pots and pans, watching them, like, this would be like 63, 64.
Mm-hmm. Me too.
Absolutely. And it was, the funny thing was, we realized when we finally got to America that America was still completely besotted by the Beatles, and every song would be played on the radio, where in England they would only play the hits. But when you got to America, you would hear, Rocky Raccoon or whatever, and even Revolution Number 9, all the weird, you would hear everything. They would play it all. They'd have like those Beatles marathons, and it was just like, oh, wow. So they did all this.
Lemmy loved the Beatles.
All I'd heard as a kid was my dad had a cassette of Revolver. So even as a kid, you'd get the Tomorrow Never Knows, and it was scary. It was like, oh, that's out there.
Revolution.
It's incredible,
Revolution number 9 was scary to me.
Oh, that's scary. That's for sure. But no, they were geniuses, because they're the essence of what a great band is, because not one of them was a virtuoso, brilliant musician in that sense, but they were incredible writers, and they worked as a team and made this special thing, and that's really what it's all about.
My boss at work at the college, he was from Basingstoke.
Oh, wow, yeah.
And he had a picture of the Beatles, like an 8x10, or smaller than that, but he gave it to me. They had short hair. It wasn't totally mop top yet.
Yeah.
I have it upstairs. But we used to talk about the Beatles all forever. He's older than I am. But, you got into it early like I did. I started playing drums at 5, and I got into the Beatles about when I was 4. That would be 1963 or 4.
Oh, geez, that's earlier than us, because my dad actually had a guitar and he wouldn't let us touch it. It was locked in the closet gathering dust. And we didn't play anything until like 71. We went on holiday to Spain, and in the hotel after the meal, a band played. and this guy's got the Strats with a coiled cord and the wah-wah pedal and playing with his teeth and behind his back, doing the whole Hendrix trip. And we were like, wow, I want to do that.
Yeah. I saw the Beatles on Ed Sullivan, and I thought, I can do that. I want to do that. My grandfather was a drummer in swing bands in the 40s. So was my uncle. And so they had me playing drums on books when I was 5.
That's amazing.
I took lessons at age 7.
Yeah.
And or Mama Papa that was when Sergeant Pepper's came out and
well, you had that old, I can tell, like in the States, everyone that was in a band, there was about 10 other bands in the street. Everyone wanted to be in a band. Everyone had a band. We didn't have that when we were kids. It was just us. And there was other bands, but there was nobody local in our area. And we just figured it all out ourselves. We taught ourselves. You'd go and watch bands and say, oh, it's done like this, it's done like that. And eventually we got to play the pubs and the clubs. Yeah.
Yeah, nobody my age did it, but I would put ads out in these little papers and go jam with older guys who were like 20-something.
Yeah, that's cool.
That's how I learned to play bass. I play guitar, and I went to this one jam. I was just talking to this guy that took me out there, and we were playing. I waited all night to play like 2 songs. That was it. And the bass player said, hey, can you play bass? I said, probably. And he gave me this Rickenbacker, and an SVT was there. And so I played that, and I played the rest of the night. And I thought, he goes, hey, if you want to come back next week and play bass, I can't make it. You can use my gear. And so I thought, if I play bass, I can play all night long.
There you go.
And that's how I started playing bass.
Yeah, because everyone wanted to be either the singer or the guitar player or maybe the drummer. These days, it's the drummer that's in 7,000 bands, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, that's probably the only reason people came to see us, because everybody that came kept trying to get Dean to play on their demos.
Yeah, it's Mike Portnoyitis. Makes him like 1,000 pounds.
Yeah, he used to talk to me. He likes Dean a lot. I haven't talked to him for a while.
No, he's a good guy. He's a good guy.
He was really cool. But I was telling my girlfriend, you are my best friend I've met playing music. You're the coolest guy, and your brother is too. How is Mark now?
He's doing good. He had a motorcycle accident on Christmas Eve. He's the most accident-prone guy in the world. Somebody pulled up short, and he skidded 12 foot down the road and got road rash all over his legs and arms. But he's fine.
Probably called you up and was laughing about that too.
Well, that's the first thing I saw was the photograph from the hospital bed when they were checking him out to say, "Oh, Jesus Christ."
Here we go again.
Yeah, it's not one thing, it's another. But he's fine. Both of them are raring to go, and I'll have them over here in 2 weeks. And we'll start that tour. It'll be great.
Well, I guess
it's our anniversary, 50 years.
Wow.
That's crazy.
So that means you started in 72?
74. 2004, 74, yeah.
I was 14 then. I'm 64 now. When I get older, I've always been losing my hair.
Many years from now.
Ago. Yeah. I'll cut this out.
To hear from you, mate, and we shall see you around April. 2, 3. Maybe I think it's April 4 or April 5. Is the Portland show. So
I'll do my best to promote it.
Good man. I hope to see you there. We're playing the Hawthorne Theatre.
Yeah, I've been there a lot. I got a shot in my eye last Friday, instead of every month, it's like every 2 months now. So I've been able to see for like 8 months.
That's good.
I can't drive yet, but it's better than it was. Oh, man.
Let's head in the right direction. That's good.
Yeah. Yeah, cooking by Braille. I'm skinny now.
There you go. Yeah, you can't see what to cook, so that'll save weight.
Yeah. But thanks for coming on. And
No problem, man.
this show is called Tell Me About It, and you did, and I appreciate that, and I appreciate your friendship, and thank you very much.
Anytime, brother. No problem. You take it easy, Matt, and I'll see you soon.
Rock on, man. Not
Cheers.
dead.
You bet.
Bye.
Cheers, man.